welcome everyone. We have a pretty packed program tonight for you, so we're going to go ahead and start at least with some general items, but thank you everyone so much for joining us tonight. It's a Tuesday evening for us folks in Boston, but I'm happy to see that we have people joining us from all over, not only US, but different parts of Asia, so thank you so much. We're very honored to have all of our wonderful panelists and speakers today, as well as all of you supporting us and joining us tonight. To start, we ask that people, if they are able, please have your Zoom display name correspond with the name registered to the event with. That makes it much easier for us to keep track of attendance. However, it's not a huge deal if you can't adjust the name at this time. During the program, we ask that also you please remain muted to respect our speakers and other attendants. You may choose to keep your cameras on or off, however you're most comfortable. The program will be lasting for a total duration of about an hour. We'll have a Q&A for the last 15 minutes or so, but you may add your questions to the chat box at any point during the program, and they'll be addressed starting from the beginning in order near the end. Additionally, a video of the program will be shared to YouTube in the few days following. It'll be emailed directly out to all the registrants, so if you have to leave early at any point, you can access the full program with the video recording. And I think we're going to get started with a little background of these main two programs that we have highlighted in the title, the JET program and TOMODACHI Initiative, for anyone who may not be already familiar with these programs. And we have two of just the best people I personally would want to represent and introduce these programs with us tonight. So we'll begin with Jessica from US JET AA.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself here. Hi, everyone. My name's Jessica Livingston. I'm the Executive Director for US JET AA, which is actually the alumni association for the JET program here in the United States. For those of you who don't know, the JET program is a program that's run by the Japanese government. So they hire college graduates from all over the world, including the United States, to go and live and work in Japan. And about 90% of JET participants are assistant language teachers, or ALTs, and about 10% are CIRs, which are coordinators for international relations. And you can find JET program participants across all prefectures. So ALTs teach alongside a Japanese teacher of English to help bring the English language to life, and also to expose Japanese students to US culture. You're often their gateway to basically the larger global world. And the coordinators for international relations do a whole bunch of different things depending on where they're placed, but generally they coordinate international relations. The JET program is really a unique program because you're integrated into your community's fabric, which is not always possible in Japan. The JETs can recontract, so they recontract on an annual basis. So you can be in Japan on the JET program for anywhere from 1 to 5 years. The application for the JET program is currently open. The deadline is November 17th this year, and it's a hefty application. So if you're interested, you don't want to be starting on it the night before. It's kind of like a college application. And then when you return, you bring your Japan experience with you and you become a JET alumni, which is what I am. Many JET alums continue to engage in US-Japan relations, and we use our JET experience to inform the work that we do post-JET. Now there's nearly 40,000 alumni of the JET program in the United States alone, and there's over 70,000 alumni worldwide. So it's quite a vast network. So US JET AA, the Alumni Association here, we represent the US contingent of that alumni network at the national level. We're a nonprofit organization, and we are dedicated to strengthening the US-Japan relationship through this JET alumni network. So that includes supporting the efforts to share the JET program opportunities with others, which is what we are here doing tonight. Aside from this event with Japan Society of Boston, the JET alumni community will be hosting basically office hours leading up to the November 17th application deadline to support interested applicants and answer your questions. So you can check out our website or follow US JET AA on social media for the details of when and where those will be. You can follow us on Instagram or X, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I guess that's basically it. I want to thank the Japan Society of Boston for reaching out to us and partnering with us on this event. We're really delighted to be here. And I want to thank all the panelists that are here helping to bring awareness to the JET program, Tomodachi, and study abroad opportunities that exist, and the reality of those experiences. There's so much to do out there in the Japan world, and I'm really glad to see so many people interested in it. Thank you.
So much, Jessica. And Felix, to hear a little bit about Tomodachi Initiative.
Yes, hello, thank you so much. My name is Felix Garcia. I'm based in Boston, and I'm a USJC member and alum of the Tomodachi program, and I also represent the sort of the Alumni Association of Tomodachi here in New England. So I'm here to talk about a little bit about the US-Japan Council and Tomodachi. The US-Japan Council is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It was founded by Japanese Americans, including the late Senator Dan Inoue. And the USJC was founded to create a community of leaders, strengthen ties between the US and Japan, and facilitate new ways of collaboration between our two nations. So in pursuit of this mission, the USJC developed several different initiatives, one of which was the Tomodachi Initiative. So Tomodachi is a public-private partnership that aims at developing the next generation of young leaders in Japan and in America. It does this through several different programs aimed at high school and college students across Japan and the US. So these programs can range from, say, scholarships, exchange programs, internships, or even a sports program. And while individual programs can vary in format, they all typically fall under three categories: educational, cultural, and leadership programs. So in the 11 years since it started, the Tomodachi Initiative has developed a network of over 10,000 students and young professionals who are alumni of the program across the US and Japan. And a lot of them go on to pursue careers in related to US-Japan relations. Some even become JET themselves. So if you'd like to hear more about Tomodachi, I welcome you all to explore our website and see if there's a program in your area where you're located. And thank you so much for the Japan Society of Boston for having us here and hosting this wonderful event.
Thank you so much, Felix. And thank you to both of you for that great information. Think they will be dropping a little bit of a couple useful links and resources in the chat. So please feel free to check those out, as well as we wanted to let you know that JSB offers a discounted membership to both JET alums and Tomodachi Initiative alums. So if you're interested, that is an option for you. And that's our website where you can find other great free online events, sometimes in person, sometimes online, but please check those out as well. All right, we're going to kick things off by introducing the wonderful members of the panel for tonight, and we'll be starting with Lauren.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Mosley. I am currently based in Washington, D.C. I work at a think tank called CSIS. I did JET from 2017 to 2019. I was based in Hyogo Prefecture in a really small town called Yabu City. Prior to JET, I actually worked at the US-Japan Council, and I was helping out with a lot of Tomodachi initiatives. Just to close the circle, I did major in Japanese as an undergrad. I majored in Japanese and global politics, so that's kind of my background. I look forward to talking with all of you guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Daniel?
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dan. I was a coordinator for international relations in Fukui Prefecture in a little town called Katsuyama. And right now, I currently work as a political assistant at the Consulate General of Japan. And let's see, I had lived in Japan once before, but that was really just teaching with another English company. So it was a lot of fun to get into my position and, you know, put on a new hat, try out what a CIR does in Japan. So great experience, and really look forward to talking about it more with all of you. Thanks.
Thank you. Jamie?
Hi everyone, my name is Jamie. I am currently living in New York City, and I actually just came back to the States in January from Japan, where I lived and worked as a Jet CIR for since 2017 to 2022, technically. So I'm pretty much fresh and hopefully be able to give you an insight as to what it's like to live and work over there. And currently I work for the permanent mission of Japan to the United Nations. That's what I came directly out of the JET program. So hopefully be able to give you a little insight to that. And also before I was a JET, I was actually interning in Washington, D.C., where I got to participate in one of the Tomodachi programs called Building the Tomodachi Generations in 2017. And that was really what kickstarted my interest again in US-Japan relations. So hopefully I'll be able to give you a little bit of insight, given that I actually been part of both organizations. So looking forward to talking to you guys.
Great. And could you mention where in Japan you were?
Oh, sorry, I was actually in Okinawa.
Wonderful. Tristan?
Hello, everyone. I'm Tristan Norman. I'm currently a jet in Japan in Hyogo Prefecture, so right next to Yabu, where Lauren was. Let's see. I was a Tomodachi alumni from the Tomodachi Kakahashi Inoue Scholars Program in 2018. So we got to come to Japan, go to Tokyo, and go to Hiroshima and meet atom bomb survivors and hear their testimonials. And it was really, really fascinating. That sort of kickstarted my interest in Japan. So I've been on JET for about 2 years now. And in my free time, I'm also a programs officer at Young Professionals in Foreign Policy Tokyo, sort of a global network of young professionals interested in different bilateral relationships. And I sort of lead the local conference of youth, and we have youth climate change conferences for Japanese youth and youth in the Indo-Pacific. And so we touch on climate change, climate adaptation, and try to sort of create networks for youth to become greater engaged on this topic. So very nice to meet you all and happy to talk about anything.
Last but certainly not least, Grace.
Hi everyone, my name is Grace and I'm a first-year master's student at Tokyo University of Marine Science and Technology. I do not have any relation to the JET program or the Tomodachi Initiative. However, since I'm a student here, I would be more than happy and willing to answer any questions anybody has if you're interested in becoming a student here or potentially studying at, either the undergrad, the grad level, or even Japanese language school. I don't have any experience with Japanese language school, but yeah, I've been studying marine biology on and off here since 2017, and I officially moved here to Tokyo in 2022. So about a year and a half ago at this point, to start my master's program. So happy to speak to everyone.
All right, thank you so much, guys. We're going to kick things off with the first question of today's panel. So, how did you hear about your program and why did you decide to participate?
I'll go ahead and just start. I think a lot of people have heard of the JET program through their maybe university professors and such. That's where I first heard about it. Actually, a fun fact is that I applied out of when I was a senior and I didn't get in. And so then I started working at the US Japan Council and I waited a few years and I thought I would just let it go. And then I decided to reapply because I was still interested. So that's how I first got introduced to JET.
Yeah, I guess I'll take this up next. I actually heard about it from the World Wide Web, if you can imagine that. And of course, it was reinforced by college teachers. I also took a lot of Japanese language classes. So kind of just confluence of factors led me to hear about the program.
I'll build on that a little bit. Yeah. So my one of my teachers at my university was a JET alumni, and she taught us like beginners Japanese, and it was really fantastic. She was based in Kyushu. And then our university professor at the time, our university president at the time, was one of the world's leading Godzilla experts. His name was Bill Satsui. And so he used to always talk about Godzilla and the JET program and US-Japan relations. So our whole entire university in Arkansas was really consumed in this Japan fever and, wanting to know more about how to get involved. So that's kind of how I became involved in the process too.
I see a question here from Dwin. What made you want to study marine biology in Japan? So when I was an undergraduate student, my university required that we do an internship. So I've always kind of been interested in marine biology, marine science, and especially like whales and sea turtles were kind of, what I was interested in studying. And Japan being an island nation surrounded by the ocean and also, has a lot of like culture and economically important factors regarding the ocean, such as the seafood market and things like that. Um, I was interested in studying. I went to my university's internship office as a second year sophomore, and you know um, was kind of asking about opportunities, and I wasn't necessarily interested specifically in Japan. I was more interested in, doing some sort of like study abroad program. So they suggested, uh, they had a connection with a research institution called the Ogasawara Marine Center, which is an institution that's been researching the sea turtle population in those islands for a very long time, many, many decades at this point, since, well, they were established in the 1980s. So yeah, I was really interested in that opportunity because Ogasawara is kind of like this very remote island. You can only get there by ship because there's no airport. It takes 24 hours to get there. So as a second year college student, I was like, wow, this seems like an adventure. So that's what initially got me started here in Japan. And then, that was an amazing experience for me. So I decided to further my career in marine science here.
All right.
I-
Sorry, Jamie, did you want to?
Okay. Sure, sure. Yeah, just bouncing off of what Grace was saying, because I was also living on a remote island off of Okinawa, so I can definitely relate to, being a little bit of no, expecting to live in Japan, but not quite sure where or where you're going to be. So, just be prepared for everything and anything. So going chronological order, I first did I was also a Tomodachi alumni. I joined the program in 2016 when I was actually interning for two different embassies in Washington D.C. And so the Tomodachi program has a lot of corporate sponsorship and a lot of connections to different organizations. In my case, I was interning through this internship program called the Washington Center, and the Tomodachi program had I was just lucky that they had this the Tomodachi program had the connection to the Washington Center where I was part of, and I heard about the Tomodachi program, and that's where I joined in 2016, and through that I met wonderful people from Japan, and also my fellow alumni, American alumni in the program that I still keep in touch to this day. And just going chronologically, through one of the networking events that the Tomodachi program hosted, I met a person from the Japanese embassy that really started to mentor me, and I really looked up to him, and he was the one that really pushed me to be to apply for the JET program as a CIR. So it just, you know, as Lauren said, comes full circle. First was a Tomodachi. I had a great experience there, lots of networking and connections that led me to be to apply for the JET program, where I spent the last 6 years on a remote island, as I said, in Okinawa. So yeah, love to talk to you guys more about that.
I think this is a question that would be relevant for everyone, but how did the Japanese language immersion affect your overall experience in Japan? Did you encounter any communication barriers during your time, and how did you navigate them?
So sorry, I just saw another question that I think might segue well with the question just presented. So it says, hi Grace, what was your JLPT level to do a master's at Tokyo University? I've been considering pursuing a master's involving neuroscience in Tokyo. That's really interesting. So actually, I've never taken the JLPT. I self-studied Japanese, kind of. So since I was not initially planning, my goal was more oriented towards marine science. So I did not actually formally study Japanese really before coming to Japan. I did I mean, I pretty much picked up the language through living here. And that does take some time, you know, it didn't come immediately, although you will be surprised, you know, if you come and you're completely immersed. For me, I came alone, so I didn't come as part of a program. So I was completely immersed from day one, hearing it every single day, like 24/7. And I was also living in a kind of like shared housing situation with other Japanese college students. So I think that really helped, um, you know, loosen the language barrier slowly but surely. I've heard a lot of people say that, you know, if you come in a cohort and you're, you know, with other foreign students, you're always spending time speaking English with those people, it'll be a lot more difficult to pick up the language. So if you can, try and spend as much time with native speakers as possible, you know, to make friends, because having the language under your belt will definitely help. Um, so I'm not sure. I'm sure many people here, or most people here, are familiar with JLPT, but it's I believe it's the Japanese language proficiency test. So it's kind of like a standardized test which measures your level in Japanese. I have not taken it, so I'm not exactly sure what level I would be. I was asking, you know, a professor here at my university, you know, like, you know, do you know what level I would be at? And they were thinking N2. So N1 and N2 are sort of the levels that most people would say are required to do, you know, professional work here, or, you know, things like a master's program. Although I do know that there are a lot of master's and PhD programs here that are conducted in English. So if language would be an issue, then there are plenty of programs that are conducted in English, especially at larger universities. My university, um, I would say most of the lectures are in Japanese because it's a national university, but it's kind of on the smaller side, and it's um, you know, more specialized in terms of the field. So larger, I'm actually not at Tokyo University, I'm at Tokyo University of Marine Science and Technology, which is um it's a different school, but Tokyo University, um and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they probably have, since they're so large, I think that they probably would have some English programs. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Whoever wants to, I guess I'll jump in because I spoke up. But I am seeing a question for CIRs in particular, and I think it really ties in well here about reservations about Japanese language ability. I will say probably everyone here, no matter where you are or where you were with your Japanese before you came to Japan, you probably had some reservations. I think it's normal. You're going to second guess yourself. And I think that really the only way to learn what you need to know is to actually just do it. So it will be tough at the beginning. I do think that N2, N1, what others have been, putting out there as kind of a good level to measure yourself by, it is solid, and you should hold yourself to those requirements. But there will always be things you haven't heard before, little cultural things you wouldn't even have thought to study. So yeah, I did have some reservations signing on to the program, but by the time I did sign on, I was at N1. So I'll just put that out there, not to scare anybody. I think that N1 can be a really large kind of range. Maybe some people are more comfortable with reading, some people are more comfortable with speaking, but roughly N2, N1, I think you should be okay. Thanks.
Anyone else want to jump in about their experiences with Japanese language or?
Sure. Just as Dan was saying, as an experience as a CIR, I might be like a different. I might have been in a different situation because I actually did live in, actually grew up in Japan when I was small. So one of my first languages was actually Japanese. But even then, by the time I actually applied to the JET program, it's been like 16 years since the last time I've been to Japan, or I wasn't even practicing my Japanese that well. So like even though I didn't have a JLPT taken, or like I didn't have a certificate on that. I think I might have been like a JLPT N3 or N2 level. So I had like a strong reservation, as somebody that asked on the chat, very strong reservations about applying for the CIR program. With that said, as Dan pointed out, you do need to have that baseline skills, but there's so much that you will actually have to learn on the job and on the spot. And just being like flexible and just being able to take in new information as you go along, I think is one of the best things, or that helped me during my time in Japan. Even though I lived in Japan, I never had an experience working in Japan. So that in itself is a whole new experience, and you need to be like very adaptable, I think, whether you want to be an ALT or CIR.
I guess just jumping in for someone who did not have as much Japanese language in their background, I think in my second year on JET, I took the JLPT and I think I went into N3. So probably when I first started, I was N4, let's be honest. I think Hyogo Prefecture is one of the prefectures. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, or rather, don't quote me. But Hyogo at the time was actually trying not to have people who don't have any Japanese experience. So they wanted ALTs who had at least some Japanese experience. And how that impacted my time in JET was actually pretty good, in the sense that I was able to really hone in on my Japanese language skills. Because I was kind of in the countryside, there wasn't a lot of opportunities to speak English. So I quickly was able to learn, from grocery shopping or ordering things at like restaurants to finding my way around other cities. With life, you quickly do figure it out, similar to what Grace was saying. So I wouldn't discourage anyone who might not have that strong Japanese language skills to look into opportunities like Tomodachi, like JET, like studying in Japan, just because there are opportunities out there. Definitely do your research.
Sorry, I just want to echo what Lauren was saying, because that I really agree with what you're saying. And I think it's important, even if you don't feel confident in your Japanese ability right now, once you're in Japan, it'll be a lot easier to pick it up through day-to-day interactions. So yeah, definitely don't get discouraged. You'll learn once you come here. So
Yeah, I will also echo that. I didn't have a lot of Japanese experience whenever I came to Japan, but I've been here for about 2 years now. And from where you start to where you go whenever you start really immersing in it is really fantastic, because then you're in it. You have to have that survival Japanese. You have to get from A to B, and then you get, for an hour, you have to talk to this Japanese grandmother, this Obachan in your village, and they're going 1,000 miles per hour and they're native Japanese. But it's really enduring. And then having those like conversations with your community members, whether it's people at your grocery stores or even your own students or the people that you work with at your job as an ALT or as a CIR, is really endearing. And so they are really sensitive to the fact that you might still be learning a language. And even in fact, some of my teachers will have like English phrases that they have written down on a card, and they'll sometimes want to practice with me and to make me feel more comfortable. And we have a little language exchange. So if you're not, really far along in your Japanese level, don't let that be a deterrent for either the JET program or the Tomodachi Initiative, or if there's other international experiences that you're interested in, like studying abroad in Japan. As people were saying, there's a lot of master's programs that are catered to English speakers and that do have a language immersion component to it as well. So it can be a long-term process and, getting more comfortable with Japanese.
And just one last thing, as a kind of LOL moment, of course, a lot of us who have studied Japanese in the US or not in Japan, we have that background, right? But if you go to Japan and you're in Hyogo, for example, you have Hyogo Ben, right? And then there's Tajima Ben, and then there's Yabushi Ben, and then there's Oya Ben. So like it just goes like from region to region, smaller to smaller, and they all have their own different ways of speaking. So you're going to learn one way or the other. So it's a great experience.
And outside of the language, were there any particular aspects of Japanese society or way of life that you found challenging to adapt to?
Oh, if I can just get the ball rolling here. Yeah, definitely. Just working in a Japanese office, because that's a lot of times as a CIR, you'll be placed in a municipal office, or in my case, I was in a municipal office in my small island, and also I was working in because my 90% of the industry, where I live, where I was placed was tourism, so I was actually placed in the tourism office a lot of the times. So there's a lot of I would say like cultural things that you need to like get used to like really quick, even within like the office setting in Japan, like even having experience working in American style environments. Just like the fax that you're still using, the stereotypical like fax machines, that's real. Like like you do need to get like accustomed to that, or like your first week in the JET program, you probably have to get a hanko or you ink on with your name on it, where you had to like instead of your signature, you had the signing, where you will have to use that for any kind of contracts, or just to show your work that you've read the paper, even so like there's a lot of things that you had to like get used to. But again, like the JET program, I think is one of those things that requires a lot of flexibility on your part and a lot of adaptability. As I said, those things will really get you far. Have an open mind. Not a lot of things will make sense, and honestly, a lot of the things that are Japanese style in a workplace might not ever make sense to you, but it's just how the things are. And whether or not you're successful in what you do in Japan really depends on how flexible you are and how adaptable you are. So
Yeah, I would say, just to echo those comments, really, there are some things, say, coming from the American perspective that you would not think make a whole lot of sense, but that's the American perspective. You're in Japan, and I think part of living in another country is trying your best to adapt and kind of understand how, things are done. So I can remember adjusting to my municipal office, all the forms you might have to fill out to say just leave the office to go to the bank or something like that. You might be used to just telling the boss, person to person, oh hey, you think I might be able to leave a little bit earlier before lunch to go to the bank? no, you actually have to fill out a form and maybe use your Hanko and things like that. So it's not wrong, it's just different. So I would remind everyone to embrace difference. It's part of the reason why you're looking to go to Japan, right? To learn something new and challenge yourself. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, to build off that, especially with the Honko story, I remember once I was having to like correct a package at the post office and I had to bring my Honko and I stamped it, but it wasn't perfectly stamped and they all stared at me and had like almost a breakdown. And so we had to print a new form for me to Hanko stamp it again. And so there's like really specific rules of procedure that, should be followed and processed. So in any case in Japan, it's always good to kind of get an idea of what those rules of procedures are, or talk to if you have a Japanese teacher of English to help explain the process to you. And in the event, always prepare a little bit in advance in case anything goes wrong, you have any complications, have somebody there that's a soundboard for you to, understand the Japanese way of doing things. Because, we have a term called gaijin smash in the JET program. You can gaijin your way through it, but you're going to hit a wall at some point to where you'll want to adapt and you want to make it easier for everybody. And so that's really about a big thing in the Japanese workplace is, you're in a communal environment, making sure that you're respectful and taking care of everybody else's needs within your office space, and that will go a long way.
I'm gonna follow up with that and kind of switch it around as well. So I think one of the challenging things for me personally was also those bouts of loneliness that not many people will discuss, being a foreigner in Japan, right? So like I said, I was in Hyogo Prefecture and in the countryside. I was really lucky actually in the sense that within my one city, we had one jet who was from Puerto Rico and then another jet who was from Jamaica. And then I came and two other Asian American jets came as well. So actually, in a way, it was pretty diverse for a random city in Hyogo Prefecture that people were able to meet all of us from different backgrounds. But that doesn't mean that every day was like rainbows and butterflies, right? Just because after some times it does wear on you when you get stares, right? When you're in the grocery store, or you don't have that language, and so you just get frustrated. So to answer the question though, I think another good thing is to have that support around you. So when I was there, I was really lucky, or maybe a lot of people are lucky, but I had a great group of people around me. And when I say people around me, I am including those jets who came with me, those jets who were already there, as well as those coworkers. I was in love with my coworkers while I was on jet. One of them basically adopted me into their family. And once a week, I would go to their house and we would cook dinner together and we would talk in Japanese. And then the last like half hour, her husband would try to talk to me in English, right? They were there for me like when I was having issues or if I didn't when I had a mukade in my house and I didn't know what to do, I called them and he came and saved me from this centipede type thing that could like hurt me, right?
Don't
And
Google Mukade.
yeah, we don't like them. But we do really like the support. So I think one thing to note is build that support network. Keep yourself in check as well. Know your mental health. I think that's really important as well. So thanks.
Thank you for bridging that question to actually, this is kind of asking about all the things that you mentioned, but if anyone else wants to touch upon, if you observed any common difficulties that were shared by a lot of, gaijin or people in your program, what support systems did you lean on to deal with challenges associated with adjusting to life in a new country? And I know Lauren kind of started the ball for us on that one, but if anyone else has any systems of support they used while in Japan.
If I may, yeah, during my JET program, I was fortunate enough to be able to lean to my fellow alumni from the Tomodachi program. For example, because we're separated by regions, so there's a bunch of regions within Japan. Also, right now we have a bunch of regions here in the US too. But even back when I was a JET program participant in Okinawa, we would have a gathering of Tomodachi alumni there bi-monthly, I think. So that was one of the things that I was really grateful to the Tomodachi program, being able to be part of it. Also, when you're part of the JET program specifically, you also have a regional block. You're separated into blocks where you have this regional organization within JET that's a lot of support when it comes to, whether that's like events, social gatherings, volunteering, or just mental health, and like even the national JET program organization also that support gives a lot of support to the program participants. So in that regard, I really think you could be sure that somebody's always got your back, even, every one of us, regardless of how much Japanese or you speak or don't speak. We all go through that bout of loneliness or, just feeling homesick and all that. So there's definitely I wouldn't say like it's 24/7, roses and like everything is so good, but you're gonna have those vulnerable moments. Every one of us, I think, does, but there's always a support system that's gonna help you bring yourself back up to where you need to be. So I wouldn't um yeah, I just wanted to get that out there, that you always have, somebody's always got your back there.
And if no one else has anything to add, outside of, other American friends, did you also have the chance to engage with the local community during your time in Japan? What steps did you take to get involved, build relationships with your Japanese colleagues, students, and neighbors? Was the welcome you received generally positive or negative? If anyone has any thoughts on.
Yeah, I would say that one of the best ways you can engage with your local communities and, whether it's with your surrounding communities or within your region, is there are so many festivals or matsuri around Japan where everybody will go. There's like one almost every single weekend somewhere, like whether it's a fireworks festival or a shrine festival or just a random ceremony. Chances are if you go and attend those events, you're going to run into your students, you're going to run into your community members, because everybody coalesces around these different events to feel like they're part of a community. And if you immerse yourself in that and you're not on the sidelines like watching and taking photos from far away, you'll get a really unique experience that makes you feel like you're a part of like the community. And also because you're a foreigner there, or they know that you're the AOT of that community or the JET of that community, they will be really, really happy that you are there and wanting to get you involved in, these community activities or spaces. And, another way you could do it is there's a lot of like intramural sports activities. So I do like intramural soccer or volleyball, and I run into like some of the students or some of the grocery store workers there. And we've developed friendships through that. So, finding unique ways to get involved in community is really, really exciting and will help, overcome that barrier of loneliness that you might have in immersing in the area.
Jumping off what Tristan said, I'm not sure, probably not, but in my town, in the town hall, they had they had a Japanese language class. And like I had said, I had studied Japanese, so it wasn't necessary for me to join, but it was a great way for me to get to know people. And through that, I was able to meet a lot of mostly older people. But I mentioned that I was interested in tea ceremony. And one of the ladies did a bunch of research and decided to join me learning tea ceremony, and then dragged one of her friends along. And so we all were learning tea ceremony. And then I found out after the fact that the first lady was not interested in it at all. She just decided to do it because I had mentioned I was interested in it. But it all started with me joining this random Japanese class because why not? So there are opportunities out there. Like I had said, in terms of community, I also definitely got close to my JET community within the region. And so one cool thing about JET is that we talk a lot about America, but there's JETs from all over, right? So a lot of my close friends were Kiwis, actually. So they're from New Zealand. And they ended up inviting me to their festival. So even though I was in Yabu, I was going to like Kamicho, right? Or I was going to Kinosaki and joining all these other festivals where I was meeting all these other new people who my friends knew. So your community can really grow in that regard. So there's opportunities.
Yeah, just bouncing off of that. I'm sorry, Dan. I don't know if you. But yeah, I appreciate it. No, I'm pretty sure Dan can speak to this too. But like as a C, specifically as a CIR, not only do you're expected to accomplish your daily task and then meet the needs of your local municipality or village, town, what have you. But also you're expected to be, and this also goes it applies to ALT, CIRs regardless, but a big part of the JET program, I was always told that, you're supposed to be this ambassador, right? Ambassador for your own culture, for your own language. So that's, for, in our case, that's English, but um, and also not only just your culture, but bringing a little bit of yourself, a little bit of your your interests, your hobbies, and what have you. And as Tristan pointed out, that can be like a great gateway or a great bridge to connect us to the local population. And and that goes both ways. They want to know about you, you want to get to know the community. So I think that's one of the great ways to really, really connect. In my case, because I work in the local municipality, and not to mention, I was at the gates, so to say, of people visiting, where the municipality that I lived in, and just having that exchange of information was really vital to just getting to know people, getting to know the culture, and yeah, and just generally make a great experience for yourself, because like a lot of things in life, it's the JET program is really is what you make of it, really. So yeah, I think that's really, really important.
Again, I'm a broken record here, but to echo those statements, I mean, 100%. I think that especially being a CIR, part of your responsibilities are to really get into the community and to kind of make yourself known, to learn more about your community and how people live, the fun things that people might partake in. So yeah, I had the chance to, do kind of a tennis club. I had the chance to, let's see, do some music. I like to play music. So I would play music with a friend I made at City Hall, and we would perform for some, elderly community groups. And yeah, just so much fun. Do not hesitate to put yourself out there. You might be a little bit hesitant at first, but you just got to remember the other person's probably hesitant to meet a new person as well. But once you break the ice, you're all good and you're going to have a great time. So, yeah.
Thank you. For the sake of time, we're going to be stepping away from our prepared questions for the last couple of minutes and open up to the audience. I know actually I've seen a lot of the audience kind of answering each other's questions and helping each other out, as well as thanks to Jessica and Felix for addressing some of these questions that have been coming in. But if anyone wants to pose any new questions in the chat, I know that kind of language level was a common concern I saw for many people. If that's something that anyone wants to add onto, language concerns, and also getting involved in local clubs and organizations. But now is the time to just kind of open it up to everyone. Any sorts of questions, questions to our representative speakers as well.
If I may, so just speaking about and I was seeing that a lot of people are having, some concerns about the language as well, which is natural. I will say that when I first came to Japan, my Japanese was very, very, very beginner level. I hardly, because in my case, I hardly had any time to prepare after, um deciding on this internship. I had about 3 months beforehand to kind of do my best, listen to podcasts and see if I could become, slightly conversational beforehand. But in my case, at least, the vast majority of language learning happened once I arrived in Japan. So I guess my advice would be, don't worry too much. I mean, it's always, it always is really good. Wouldn't hurt to prepare. So definitely, prepare as much as you can. But don't let that hold you back from trying to connect with people, because Japanese people will be very, very understanding, and also very happy to hear you speak their language. And they'll often, say, thank you for, trying to connect, using Japanese. They think it's really cool, because not a lot of foreigners, not a lot of, international people speak Japanese, because, it's an island country and it's not, as popular as, English or some of these other languages that, have many, many speakers across the world. So it's kind of unusual for foreign international people here to speak Japanese. So locals are always really, really happy to hear you even try to speak. So I would say what helped me the most was just do as much listening input as possible. If you can, put YouTube on in the background, or put a podcast on in the background, and just have constant input of listening. And eventually you'll start to pick up, grammatical patterns from that. And just, yeah, input is what really helps me. And also just don't be afraid to start using it as soon as possible, to start speaking it, because it'll be a learning curve going up from there.
Yeah, just to butt in there, one of my favorite topics. I studied linguistics in college, so this is one of my favorite things to talk about. But definitely, I would say as much input as you can. If you're watching any kind of media, really try to stay away from English subtitled content, because your eyes are just going to wander and you're going to forget about whatever they're saying. But yeah, the sooner the better you can get in contact with the language, actually using it, hearing it a good amount, I think will help you and probably put your mind more at ease for what you, will come to expect in Japan.
I always think a good resource is reality TV shows, because you're listening to the way people are actually speaking. Whereas if you listen to the news, or sometimes even a podcast can sort of go either way. But if you're listening to something where the speech has been prepared, it's much more formal. But if you listen to sort of this reality TV show type stuff, you're getting a lot more of the day-to-day colloquial language.
Sorry, if I could just add to that real quick. I don't know if TVer, there's a website called TVer that's popular here in Japan. I'm not sure if it's available abroad, but I'm sure if you use a VPN, you could access it. That has lifetime broadcasts, and also you can watch reality TV shows on that in full. So it's TVER is the name of the website. So if anyone's interested in reality TV, I definitely agree that that's an excellent resource.
And we'll be sharing in the follow-up email with the video of the program, all the resources and links that were in the chat. So you'll have access to that following the program as well. This may not really be a question that the panelists necessarily have insight into. Edith's question about what do you think was the reason that you were selected among the rest of the applicants, but maybe to rephrase that is looking around at the rest of your cohorts in JET, some common traits, characteristics, or things that are maybe across the board, or you think that may have been, a plus on their applications, is a better way for the panelists to answer.
I'm happy to answer this. I used to be a program coordinator for the JET program, so I saw a lot of the incoming applications. Your statement of purpose and your letters of recommendation are going to be weighed the most heavily. So you have your whole application packet, which looks sort of like a college application, but those two items are the only parts of your application that are personal to you. And you want that statement of purpose. The E in JET stands for exchange. So you want that statement of purpose to talk about not only what you hope to get out of the JET program, but what you hope to potentially bring to your community in Japan. So they're really looking for that, the portion of your statement of purpose that talks about the actual exchange. Also, the folks that are running the interviews, that's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for Japan. So their whole mission is to build bridges between Japan and whatever country their mission is serving in. In our case, it's the United States. So they're hoping that, Jets go to Japan and have a fabulous time and fall in love with Japan and come back and continue to serve as a bridge between our two countries. So the other point that you can make in your application and that statement of purpose that people will definitely pay attention to is how you intend to do that or how you hope to do that. That will give you a real edge so thinking about sort of the long-term process. And I like to point out over and over again to people that you are a Jet for anywhere from 1 to 5 years, but you are a JET alum for the rest of your life. And so the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, when they're going through all of these applications, they're looking for that discussion and that conversation in there as to how you intend to continue to serve that relationship. And it doesn't have to be formal. You don't have to, say that you're going to, go on to become a consul general, and serve in some diplomatic mission somewhere. It can be at the grassroots level. You can harness your own passions and talk about how you hope to interweave that or integrate that. But just putting those 2 points in your statement of purpose is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, to build on that, I would say you want to have, an interest in Japan, but also an interest that's really unique to you as far as what you want to do in the long term. So it's Japan and something else. And so in my case, I was really engaged in like climate change and climate activism work in the US. And so I wrote my thesis about climate change and climate adaptation in Japan. And part of my work along with the JET program, like in my free time, is I work with Japanese youth climate activists and we organize youth conferences on climate change. And so there can always be a component of you that's part fully immersed in the JET program, but there also needs to be a component of you that's looking in the future of like, where can I go with this? How can I give back? How can I be that bridge? And then mirroring those two in your statements and your narrative and your statement of purpose, having that extra component will go a long way because, while you're in Japan, you can build the foundation and the stepping stones to begin that process because you'll have a lot of free time on the JET program, a lot of downtime to where you can explore that. And so starting early and then creating those networks or reaching out to us or different community members to help be a foundation or a bridge for you will set you up a long way and make the Japan exchange and teaching program more meaningful and more unique for you, and also connect you to wonderful communities like the Tomodachi Initiative or the US Japan Council or even the US JET Alumni Association.
For the sake of time, I think we're going to take this last question from Alexander, which seems like a good closing note. But if anyone has any tips or recommendations for ways to get involved in Japan, getting to Japan outside of JET, Tomodachi Initiative, it'd be great to hear those suggestions. And once again, I wanted to mention that all the links, all the resources kind of mentioned throughout in the chat, throughout the program, will be sent in a follow-up email. So you'll have those at your disposal. But if anyone has a fine, Lauren, yes.
Yeah, I have a few ideas. So like I had said earlier, I actually had applied and I didn't get into JET the first time around. What I would suggest is to not give up first off. You can always reapply, but also while you're in the waiting, look at other US-Japan related organizations. So there's Japan America Society all throughout the US. They have opportunities for careers, but also just activities and opportunities and events and networking. I am the co-president of JETA DC. And one thing about JETA DC, that's the JET Alumni Association of DC, we have a lot of events and we also have a newsletter that goes out monthly. You don't have to necessarily be a JET alumni to be involved in JET Alumni Associated events. We definitely invite friends of JETs to come to our events and to, once again, network, find these career opportunities. Another thing, I don't know who else is on here that identify as BIPOC, but I am also a member of NABIA, which is the National Association for Black Engagement in Asia generally. They were created in 2019, and they focused a lot on increasing representation of Black Americans within the Indo-Pacific generally. I'll put the link to their website in the chat later on, but with that group as well, they offer opportunities for networking, for career chats, and such like that. So there's a lot of opportunities that are out there. Again, do your research. But I'd encourage you guys to not give up, even if you don't get JET this first round. And again, Tomodachi Initiative, there's so many. So I'm sure Jamie and Felix can talk more about that.
Yes, I wanted to briefly mention, if anyone happens to be in the DC area in November, the US-Japan Council is having their annual conference, and it is open to the public. It's a great opportunity to network with different people from many different industries, especially a lot of industry leaders that attend that event. And I encourage anyone who's interested in pursuing a career in Japan to explore that as an opportunity as well.
I want to point out, I sort of want to follow up with Felix. He mentioned the USJC conference that's coming up. Sometimes conferences can feel they can actually be really expensive, and you're like, oh, I can't afford the dollar, the registration fees. But if you think outside the box, like all of these various conferences that are all over the place, that are US-Japan related conferences, they all need volunteers and staff to help them run. And that is a fantastic way to get into a conference for free and start building your network and meeting some incredible people. So if you don't feel like you can afford it, definitely, reach out to those conferences that are interesting to you and find out if they need volunteers and staff to help them run it. That's a great way in.
On that note, I think we'll have to end the program for tonight. I know a lot of people have other obligations to attend, so we just want to thank everyone who joined us tonight, our panelists and representatives, as well as all of you guys. I hope you gained a little bit of knowledge tonight, and again, everything will be sent to you in a follow-up email to your registration email. And if you do have any questions directly to specific people, please email info@japansocietyboston.org, and we can put you in direct contact if you had any questions specific to someone's careers or paths. They are open to your questions. So thank you very much. And we hope to see you again at another event from the Japan Society of Boston. Have a good night, everyone, or good day.